Live. And we're back with another episode of Survivor 42 in 42. I am officially way off schedule. Way off schedule, meaning that by Wednesday I should be back on schedule. Just finished Cook Islands. It is 10:30 at night on night 15, where I should be, or no, night 14, where I should be about halfway through Fiji. Cook Islands, or as everyone refers to it, Survivor Race Wars. Every time I rewatch this season, I want to find reasons to not like it. And once again, I rewatched it and I loved it. We are joined once again by McKenna, second time back.
Yes, and I am in love with Parvati, as everyone is, but I very much wanted to talk about her first appearance because I figured you would have many others wanting to come on the podcast for the later outing. But Cook Islands is one of my favorite seasons. It's like one of those go-tos for me.
It really is. And also, for the first time on this channel, yes, we have Malcolm from the Survivor Diversity Campaign. This is Malcolm's favorite season. I think you just told me right beforehand. I'm just going right into it. What about this season, despite its optics flaws, do you enjoy about the season that makes it the top for you?
Yeah, I mean, you have to you can't talk about the I-24 and just like their incredible story, right? Because unlike other seasons where they just like continue to lose challenges and they like dwindle in numbers, and then watching them navigate the merge, it's like, whoa, you left me to go to another tribe and you left us hanging like chumps. And to see the I-24 navigate the game and be the final four, and then you get to the end game where you get like Yule's strategic prowess versus Ozzy's physical dominance. And I think, especially within like the recent years before leading up to Cook Islands, I think we were seeing the physical dominance of challenges like really win the day when it came to the recent sole survivors leading into Cook Islands. So I think I think I was like 15 years old when Cook Islands came out. So watching strategy win over physical, because like I wasn't relating to like the Aussies and the Colby Donaldsons, right? But to see that like Yule was able to like masterfully know the people and work those relationships, and for it to be respected at the end with a close margin of a win, I think is one of my favorite seasons. And for me, it was really the season that made me say like, all right, Malcolm, like if you were to ever get on this island, like you don't have to be the physical person to win. I know we had Tina, who like also was able to exemplify that, but as a 10-year-old, and for that being my first season, I was like, all right, I'm just like watching. It's Colby's to win. Like I didn't really understand the nuance of Tina's win, but I think they did a great job of really showing why Yule was the winner over Ozzy.
Absolutely. And so McKenna, when you first watch the season, when they're pulling up, because I know that remind me again, what season did you start on? You started in the 30s, right?
Millennials versus Gen X was my first season watching live, but I had watched others like, because I had just kind of, my origin story to Survivor is a weird one. I watched Richard Hatch on The Biggest Loser. And so he was talking about how he won this show Survivor. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's watch it. And Ko Rong had just ended. And so I was in the gap. I had just hit the gap of between seasons. And I was like, all right, let's go Borneo. So Borneo actually was my first season watching a Survivor show. But yeah, Cook Islands is...
When you see them pulling up, do you already know what it is? Like, had you already heard about...
No. So I was very, like... I was very spoiler free whenever I was watching anything, pretty much at first.
What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts? And when you realized, oh, we're doing this season.
Coming off of Panama, it didn't really feel strange because of they just did it by age. Okay, they're doing it now by race. it makes sense, but then also it was like Yule talking about how like this is weird, and I'm like, you know what, this is weird, but also I love a lot of these characters in it too, so it like kind of, you know, what you've been talking about a lot in these podcasts is it kind of drowns out the whole race wars of it all, and like which
Yes.
race is superior essentially is what they were trying to
I
do.
agree. I feel like, yeah, this is another season where if we had a lesser cast or a lesser storyline, this season gets buried because people don't want to talk about it. I think because the cast was so great, especially the merge, the merge cast, and specifically, thankfully, the White Tribe. That was the railroad tribe at first.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they were batting about 3 out of 5 as far as people that we cared about, whether we liked them or not. It's a different story, but I feel like Parvati, Candace,
Jonathan,
and Jonathan are the 3 that we feel some type of way about within the realm of the game. I just didn't like Adam, period. So
you feel a little bit because he's so involved in a lot of the storyline of the
yeah.
season, because he's like the last one there, and the whole Candace of it all, and the slight Parvati of it all. But yeah,
I think because they didn't have problematic stuff this season, which is something that we don't see, or in Fiji, where they probably were going to do something like this again, just based off of the optics. We can't say the same thing about that season because there were folks that were, it's like, why is this person here? Why are they saying this? Why are they doing that? Parvati even has the confessional where she asks, is this kosher? Is this all right? And I, obviously I don't think that it's all right. I think that because of the time period that we're in, Survivor was probably like, oh, people are complaining about us not being diverse. Here you go. Like, look, we made it as diverse as possible, and we did you one better because we put them all in the same tribe. So now we're really going to find out who's the best. And thank goodness, we didn't get another type of winner, because I feel like, and this is kind of a hot take, I don't feel like Survivor would have lasted if in a race war type season a white person had won, because it would have looked very bad. Malcolm, as a POC, as someone that involved with the diversity campaign, looking at this season as from a diversity whatever. Do you think they did it right based off of how they did it? Does that make sense? Do you think they got it right?
So if you ask me, I think they did. And I say that because, again, if you look at this Cook Islands season 13, so we've had 12 seasons where, as a Black fan watching the show, I only got maybe 2 out of a cast of 16 to 18. So like I was very excited to see the diversity and to see there's so many people that I can root for, especially like looking at the Black players and say like, oh, there's 5 of us now. I get to pick. How exciting, And I think as a fan, I think what was helpful is that they didn't stick with the tribe divisions for that long, right? They only did it for 2 episodes and they immediately switched it. Right. And as fans, we know that like a swap's going to come eventually where they're not going to be in these divisions for so long. And I think 2 episodes was like long enough to kind of like, all right, we did this. And now we're going to go back to like what we know, where racial lines should not matter when it comes to like decision making and how they all play the game moving forward. I just think that, I guess maybe for it to be the overall theme, and having that be such a focal point of being divided by race, maybe that was maybe like the slight miss. But I think if they were going to divide it if they were going to make the divisions by race, to do it for 2 episodes and then immediately swap them so that everyone is mixed, I think that was a great thing moving forward. And I think as we continue to like see the trajectory of Survivor moving forward, I think it is fascinating. And we have more conversations about like, like the statistics of like the first boot and stuff like that. I think it is fascinating to see how Cook Islands plays into it and how sometimes some of the decisions that the players made really leaned into their original tribal lines, which so happened to be by race.
Andrew,
I want to get to that point. Yes, McKenna.
are you ready for your Thailand reference?
Yes, I'm excited.
All right. So I felt like this shed more like positivity on various cultures, and it was more of a learning experience for the castaways and the viewers. Unlike in Thailand, when Xian was like eating all the various parts of the chicken because it was what she grew up with, it was extra protein, no one was eating it, why the heck not? And that was, you immediately get confessionals from her tribe mates being like, she's inhaling this food, she's like eating the organs, it's gross. And so you get a different like view in like Thailand where it's, this is gross, this is bad, but this is what she does normally at home, which is not right, versus Cowboy and his traditions with the bad wind, and like we're seeing these in more of a positive light where Brad is like, it's weird, but also my headache is gone.
I have a red dot, but my headache is gone. Well, and you see Yul even transform from like, I don't know about Cowboy to like, I feel like I still don't really vibe with him as far as end game is concerned, but I feel like Cowboy's is from a different time, but I feel like I can relate to him, and I feel like that's the case with a lot of these folks, except for maybe like the Hispanic tribe, which name there were so many names at the beginning of the game.
Aitutaki.
Was that the I2 tribe? Okay. Where they just they're showing Flicka with her dreads. Where we have this Hispanic tribe where it doesn't seem like they're vibing, and at the end of the day, only one of them makes it to the merge. Speaking on the cast, I know Cook Islands has finally looked at as one of the best casts ever. Mm-hmm. I don't really even have it in my top 10 best newbie casts, mainly because the pre-merge is full of who's. Besides maybe like Cowboy and
AP? Come on.
Cowboy.
They cool bunch?
Yes, he was
Andrew.
Okay, so besides Cowboy, even if you want to throw Billy Garcia in for his thing, you could, but I feel like the final 9, maybe 5 are memorable, maybe 6.
You best not be forgetting Jenny Guzan Bay. Come on.
No, like as super fans, I feel like we appreciate multiple players that have played throughout the history of the show that people might just overlook. But I feel like as the casuals or as people that if you look back, if we're just sitting here drinking one night and we start talking about people, I feel like with this cast, we have Yul, Ozzy, Parvati, because of stuff that happened later. Like,
right.
Penner, absolutely. Cowboy, I like to throw Cowboy in there, and that's really it. I don't.
You have Candace returning 2 other times, but which I don't understand the hate for Candace. I'm also a liker of Candace.
Okay, we have to get into that one then.
I think when it comes to Candace, I think it was like the way it was presented as when she came back for Heroes versus Villains, where Probst was like doing the mutiny was so heroic. I was like, she sucked. Like,
I mean, that was not a preservation.
Okay, like, go ahead.
Maybe Candace on the Villains tribe, I would have been like, all right, all day, every day. But like, for that to be seen as, for that move and decision to be seen as heroic, I don't know. It just made me feel a little uncomfortable. I know this isn't like Heroes versus Villains.
Oh, I also don't agree that she's just very neutral, in my opinion. She's not a hero nor a villain. She's just like right in the middle.
Yeah, and I think because it leaned towards hero, I was like, she literally abandoned her tribe to go to the next one. It was like, hey, this is like a good marriage, but like my true love is over here on the other side.
The real villainous act by Kansas is denying Billy Garcia.
Yes. Yes, he might not be traditionally attractive, but he was in love with her. So it's funny that you say that you, or like, I'm assuming that that wasn't sarcasm when you say you like
Yeah,
Candace.
no, I enjoy Candace. I like
Okay.
she's not in my top of like females or Survivor players, but like I never hated her on my screen, unlike everyone who was playing with her.
And so, that's where I was going to go with it. Every time I do a rewatch of these seasons, I just get more and more annoyed with Candace, and it's so funny because I just did 13 here, and yeah, Candace flipped. Every time I watch Heroes versus Villains, it's always like, yep, of course Candace flipped at the merge. Of course she did. That's what she does. So then when she comes back for Blood versus Water and everyone votes her out and she's pissed, it's like, well, it saves you the flip in that situation, Candace. So I liked her storyline. I liked her character. I I would have been happy with her coming back for another season. It's just the season that they brought her back for
Yeah,
was
I agree. I
weird.
agree.
And even if you swap her and Danielle, it makes more sense. But like I said on the Panama pod, the reason, in my opinion, that they made Danielle a villain is because she voted out America's hero Terry. So it's
Don't knock it, Terry.
they had to go that route, but I do feel like if you just swap them, Candace flips to the heroes at the merge, and maybe something different happens.
Rupert winning?
No, please God.
That's the alternate reality you could have just made.
This is a Rupert's free zone for about 5 more days. So, other things about the season, if we get past the characters, we get Exile Island once again. Candace is home, which I love. We get another season of the Super Idol, which plays a very big part in this season, probably bigger than in Panama, if you can believe it. We
100%.
also have, in my opinion, top 2 greatest alliances ever. And, the only difference is, I have the Tagi Alliance as number 1, but I feel like with the I2 Alliance, first it came out of necessity because I totally forgot that Ozzy wasn't really vibing with the rest of I2. But
he was going. He was going if there wasn't a mutiny.
So the mutiny happens, and all of a sudden they just become these world-conquering heroes to the point where it would be a travesty if they don't stick together till 4. And I think that's talking once again about storylines, something that Guatemala was missing is the fact that this is the story of the I-2-4 versus the world, and I feel like, we have Candace as Candace, Parvati, and Adam as the main villains. We have Penner as like the ultimate rats, anti-hero, whatever you want to call him, and depending on the episode. And it's fun television. I was telling Malcolm this before we went live. Every time they won a challenge between the mutiny until the merge, I had a big ass smile on my face because I loved the fact that, like, when Sundra cried after that first challenge, I loved it. When they went to it, when they won that reward challenge and they got to see pictures of their families, it's like they deserve. I don't care what these other people's families are like, because these people deserve it in this moment. And we'll touch on why Candace and Penner did what they did, but just optics wise, and that's like my big word for all of these seasons so far is optics. Optics wise, you want to root for these people, even though Ozzy did come off as towards the beginning of the season. When he's lumped with Becky, Sundra, and Yule, it's like, yes, he's one of us now. We all want to be one of these people. So going to the mutiny, which is the second time it's been proposed, the first time someone has actually decided to do it. Thoughts, either one of y'all, and you can go back and forth. Thoughts on why they did what they did. Do you think that it was the right decision for them, and anything in between?
I mean, I'm happy to start. I think that when it came to the mutiny, I think I remember watching it, I just felt so hurt, right? Like, it has to feel so bad to say that, like, this tribe was cute and all, but like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm like making the decision to leave, especially when I feel like there was no reason, at least from my perspective, from for Candace and Jonathan to leave, right? Like, were they feeling that uncomfortable? Were they feeling that unsafe? Just like McKenna mentioned, I felt like if they were to lose again, I felt like Ozzy would have been the probable boot for it. So I just didn't make sense to me. Like, did they love Candace and Adam that much that they couldn't live without them and go back? And then again, it goes back, if we look a little deeper and we talk about like the race of it all, right? Like, they didn't feel comfortable being the minority in a tribe, that was majority people of color and a diverse tribe. So they had to go back. And when they went back to Rero, it did give them at least half the tribe, with them sticking together and seeing how they like navigated and got the four of them to the merge. I don't know. I don't know if it was a good decision. I think if they would have stayed, it would have given them more options to move around and navigate the players. But the moment they left, you immediately forced the four of them to come together and hate you in the process. So even if you get to the end, if you're Candace, right, there are four people that are not voting for you. Now you just have
Adam
win. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't think it was a good decision, but I think, I guess it's commendable. It's great TV, right? Like the fact that like she actually made the choice. But I think it was sad to watch because, no one wants to feel abandoned. And I feel like that's how it kind of came off, that her and Jonathan were abandoning their tribe to go to better pastures.
I think for Candace, it might have been a good move because she was not she did not feel connected to Jonathan. She wasn't connecting to Yul, Becky, Sandra. Like, she was just very much kind of, felt like the outsider. So all of her buddies and her pals and people who from the outside, she would connect with Nate, JP, like they were all on the other side. So I feel like for her, it was a good move. For Jonathan, I feel it was a terrible move because it just dropped him a lot because he joined Rero and then I2 hates him. Flips on Rero now hates him, and he's just screwed. So I feel like he would definitely work a lot better with I2 than he would with anybody on Rero. So the thing to join Candace because they were on their original tribe together, I think, is kind of dumb and short-sighted on Jonathan's part. But Candace, I really can't fault her specifically for swapping.
Do you think that? Sorry, I was just like, as I think about it, I agree that like I guess for Candace it was a better choice than Jonathan. But do you think Candace has like a path to win by making that decision? You think? Because
does Candace have a path to win at all?
I think she did if she stayed.
Okay.
I
don't see her winning this. I don't see her winning this game. I don't know how she gets there. She might be able to win it if she sits there, but like I don't see how she gets there without Adam and or Parvati. Because I don't think Yul is gonna pick Candace over anybody over like Becky. I don't think Yul is gonna pick, or I don't think Ozzy's gonna pick Candace over someone else. I don't think she's.
Ozzy didn't really have any people at that point.
Like, I mean, true, but
she's an attractive woman, and
I guess the reason why I was saying like I think it would have been better if she stayed is because the I2-4 dynamics don't form. Yeah. So I think if Candace like puts an effort, right, and I think it's like at least from my experience, like watching Survivor as a person of color, having played like some of these online reality games as a person of color, I think it's very easy to just like stick with what you're familiar with. And I feel like on the I2 tribe, Candace just would have needed to put in more work. I think it was like kind of lazy to make the flip. True. Because if she puts in the work, right, she can like rope in Ozzy, she can rope in Penner, right? And the dynamics kind of flip where she like builds a solid foundation and then has like Parvati and Adam and like what they're doing over there, and then they come back and it's a little more. So that's kind of
I honestly feel
I see your side too.
Yeah, I feel like if Candace and Jonathan had stayed, and let's say they do go after, which in that episode, right before they get to the challenge, Yul has himself, Becky, Sandra, Candace and Jonathan sitting there saying, "Hey, it's us 5. Ozzy's the odd man out. Blah blah blah." If these two had believed that, because Candace didn't give a confessional where she says, "I really don't want to work with this group. I really want to be with Parvati and Adam." If she had decided to say, "Hey, yeah, I'll stick with these people till the merge and then flip," then I would hate her less. But also, I feel like it would have been Ozzy first and potentially Penner second. And if that's the case, go ahead.
Sundra, maybe. Like, I think Ozzy, then probably Sundra. They'd probably take the 2 pairs and go.
Yeah. Either way, I feel like Candace could potentially. And I know this is all fantasy booking and everything, but like, I do feel like Candace. There was a way for Candace to stay and not get voted out next. Yeah. So going. Was this a good decision or not? Do you think, this is kind of a fun question, do you think it was fair that everyone, they kept sending Candace to exile? And the correct answer is yes. But thoughts?
I mean, yes. I feel like they should have also traded off with Jonathan a little bit, but because I think Yul was trying to flip him, that Candace is the move there, because then it doesn't give any blood on his hands for the old Raro tribe if he needs to make any inwards, try and flip any of them. So I feel like their only option really is Candace if they truly think they can get Jonathan on their side, which they did.
Yeah. I agree with McKenna. I think choosing to send Candace over and over and over again, it just keeps it nice and clean. Everybody knows why they're sending Candace. We don't have to think. They don't have to think too aggressively. Like, why do they keep on? Why? Who are they choosing and why? Right? Like, we know it's going to be Candace. It's always going to be Candace. It just keeps it nice and clean, right? And I think if we really narrow Yul's gameplay, it's just clean, precise moves. Yul knew exactly who he needed, what he needed to do, and the people that he needed exactly in order to execute those moves. And I think sending Candace all the time was nice and clean.
And he already has the idol, so it's not like he's potentially giving her an advantage by sending her to exile either, because there are those moments where you might want to send an ally to exile, but with nothing there, heck, just send Candace.
Just send Candace. Make her think about what she's done to us. And my favorite moment of the entire season is the auction where Becky sends Candace, and it's just everything leading up to it. And Jeff saying, for the 4th time, Candace going to exile, and she goes. But a very underrated moment is the last reward challenge of the pre-merge, where I2's destroying them in a challenge, and they just cut to Candace, and she's just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going back to exile." It's like, yes, you are, Candace. Let's talk about the final 3, but the 2 people that get the votes. Well, first of all,
I'm here for Becky.
Final 4 fire.
Thank you. I was I'm here for Becky. Becky.
Yul has the win, but it's Yul, Asterix, and Becky. Because
and I do want to talk about that, because I do believe that they were working closer than the jury gave her credit for.
Or the edit gave credit
making. Watching it this time, it becomes very apparent that these people haven't watched the show, because Ozzy, Sundra, and Becky are all sitting around camp saying, "I wonder what's going to be the final, what happens in the final 4 if there's a tie." We'll just do whatever tiebreaker they have. It's like, we already know what the tiebreaker is going to be, guys. Don't you watch the show? So we go in, we get the final 4 fire making. It's as embarrassing as I always remembered it being. And I do feel like, if anything else, that's what was the death nail for Becky at that point. I do feel like she could have gone in and said certain things that may have swayed a vote, maybe. But I think because of how horribly she performed at fire making, I do feel like that just put the kibosh on her ever getting any type of votes. Having said that, when she said, it was always me and Yul. Yul has said that. I do feel like, and I hate get up on my soapbox, but I do feel like it potentially could have been a gender thing where they saw Yul as the dominant person in this alliance because, man, McKenna.
I feel like Yul was making more of the upfront moves to go and talk to people. Yul talked to Penner. Yul did this. Yul did that. While they might have created the strategy together, and it might have been Becky's idea. We don't know. But, like, Yul was always the face. And if you are never both, if you're not splitting the face, like Adam and Wendell, they're both even. They were both heads of the snake. It's hard. So there might have been the gender kind of issue, but Yul was doing everything with the other castaways.
Yes.
Yeah, because let's say Becky does well in fire making and wins, right? Like, I think then a bigger question then becomes like, Becky, how do you differentiate your game from Yul? Yul, how do you differentiate your game from Becky? And then we don't really get that because this jury immediately didn't even consider Becky.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad she stood up for herself when she said, "Well, you're sitting here telling me that I was just going along for the ride with Yul, when in reality it was this." I think it was Nate that asked her that question. I'm glad that she like put her foot down and said, "This is what it actually was. Whether you believe that or not, that's on y'all." But Yul versus Ozzy, this is one of those Survivor debates that really, for me, it's always been Yul because I don't care about the challenge aspect of the game. But I know that there's a lot of people that think, oh, well, Ozzy, this, that, and the other, they wouldn't have been able to if he wasn't winning immunities. And I do feel like that almost any other season, that was a very big part of their success was Ozzy winning those challenges for them. But do you guys think that did they get it right? They always get it right because the winner wins. But in you guys' opinion, did they get it right in this situation? Challenge versus strategy.
If you ask me, I think they did, right? Like, I think when it comes to juries, right? Like, I recognize juries can vote however they want. They could be like, yo, I like Ozzy's hair. That's why he's getting my vote. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no criteria set on determining how somebody wins their season. But I appreciate that this was a jury that was valuing the strategy and didn't just look at challenge performance. And really hearing how Yul navigate the people, right? Because I feel like when you're entering Survivor, if you're someone that's like physically strong and can do well in these challenges, like for example, like Jonathan from 42, right? Like, should I really praise you? Like, you already were strong to begin with. Like, you should be kind of winning these challenges, right? Like, I feel like it was almost an expectation to win for Ozzy to come in and be like the physical force that he was. But I think the variable, which I appreciate every season, are the people that are playing, right? Like, there's no way for you to prepare how to navigate the people. And I think Yul was able to really articulate well, like, what he did and garnered respect from the jury to win 5-4.
Yeah, I think Yul is the most deserving out of Ozzy and Yul. You will never find probably a bigger Ozzy hater than myself. I am not an Ozzy fan, and I think I do enjoy the challenges. I love watching the challenges. I love the innovation in the challenges, but Ozzy just was like winning them and not backing it up with any form of like strategy, social, like, I don't mind you like winning because that's another way to keep yourself safe in the game. But he wasn't backing it up with any other trait besides "I just won. I got you some fish." Like,
Well, and I touched on this earlier, and this, in my opinion, this is the most. And I told Malcolm before this. This is my favorite version of Ozzy, besides maybe Game Changers, where he's basically non-existent. But even in this season, it's almost like anytime something doesn't go his way, he immediately starts pouting. And he doesn't say the free agent line this season, but he basically says it after they vote out. Oh, I can't remember who they voted out that he was working with, and he kind of just sat around the fire, just like, well, I guess I'm all alone now.
it was Elise in South Pacific.
Well, no, that's when he said that the second time. He pulled that in this season as well. on the swap tribes.
Cecilia?
That's what I'm thinking too. It's
Yes.
It's not Christina.
No, it was not Christina.
And Billy's already gone, and JP's on Raro.
So he's sitting there, and he's just like, oh, well, I guess, I'm just by myself now, and these people are going to die if I don't give them food, and all this. It's like, all right, dude, relax. But then, we don't get much of it once the I2 stuff starts, thank goodness. But then he comes back from Micronesia. Don't like him in Micronesia. Don't like him in South Pacific. And like I said, in Game Changers, he's around long enough to be like, oh, okay, see you later. But he still has this little smug moment where it's like, I hope to God Brad Culpepper wins because challenges are the only thing that matter in this game, or whatever he said. One more thing that I want to touch on, because we've gone for a while. Cowboy. And I tweeted this out yesterday, and I feel like, this is not really a hot take. I feel like most people agree with this. One of the most important moments in the show's history was his dream, that involves splitting the votes.
Plan Voodoo.
Which we don't actually see this season. And in fact, I don't feel like we see it until Heroes Villains. Is that true?
Well, I mean, Suri in Panama with her 3-2-1 was like.
Was that trying to navigate? That wasn't trying to navigate the idol, though.
No, it was not. No.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Heroes vs. Villains might be the first time that a split vote actually happens. But I do feel like people should look at. I know Cowboy was a fun character or whatever, but people should look at this as like one of those moments, like the idol being introduced, like Exile Island being introduced, where it's like this is a big moment in this show's history, because if you're sitting at home and you're watching this, it's almost like, oh yeah, that's so simple. Why don't we just split the vote if somebody has an idol, or whether it came to him in a dream or not? Fine, whatever. But in terms of Survivor history, where do you guys put this Cowboy dream? And do you think that more people should give him credit than do?
It's important. Like, if you are a general Survivor fan, you understand the importance of the dream, the importance of the split vote. I think it's hard to really not give it to Cowboy, but really give Cowboy the credit that he deserves, because it's never executed, right? Like, the idol, like we mentioned earlier, played such an important part of the season. And the reality was that, even once they found out Yule had the idol, they never tried to flush it. They never did anything with it. And I also recognize that this was maybe the second or third season with the idol. It's also a season with a lot of recruits. So they're probably an idol. What is that? I don't know her. Right. So we're not really getting the gamers to know how to play around the idol. So Cowboy gets it. I recognize Cowboy as the person that invented it, but because he doesn't get to execute it, it's hard for me to really give it all to him.
I get that.
Yeah,
Okay.
he drew the blueprints to the plan, and someone else actually built the building.
JT executed it, and here's our still. It didn't work.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Cowboy's best moment here is also let's go to this other island.
Oh my God. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to pause that Cowboy thing. I think it might be it was Boston Rob in Heroes Villains that split the vote that Tyson inevitably screwed up. But yes, Cowboy's best moment is him, Ozzy, and fucking Flicka showing up at Raro. And I don't remember who it was. It was it's the three people that we least want to see over here, which just shows how Ozzy's looked at by a lot of the folks.
Yeah.
And Cowboy won't shut up, and then tries to ask to get the spices on their way out, and Adam's just staring at him. I loved Cowboy. He's one of those great pre-merge characters that doesn't overstay their welcome.
Yes.
And I when he went home, I remember the first time watching, I was hoping that the split vote would not work, because it wouldn't have mattered because but I was hoping that Cowboy would stay. But when he left, it's like, okay, yeah, now let's get to the real stuff.
Like it was around too long.
Yes. But other than that, as we're 40 minutes in, 4.5 for me. I 4.5 out of 5. Yeah, I really like this season, and I really like it. It builds to this mutiny episode, and then from there it's amazing. And I'm optimistic that this time around with Fiji, I can overlook a lot of the negatives that happen in this one. I've done my best at trying to overlook negatives of the seasons that I've done so far. Fiji, we have how Anthony is treated pre-merge. We have the have and have nots. We have that final tribal council, which just, besides All-Stars, just the bitterest of folks for no real reason other than
the water shoes.
Yes, Lacey, God. When Rocky is like one of the more coherent and nice jurors, there's an issue because. But thank you both so much for coming on and discussing this season. Once again, I will be linking Dynamic Character Productions links in our YouTube chat and when I post the Facebook. On Twitter, I will be promoting Survivor Diversity Campaign. If you're a POC, please reach out. Follow, all that jazz. And yeah, we will see y'all after Survivor Fiji. Bye.